Welcome back to Hall of Fame College Football. I'm your host, Jason Watkins. He's the coach, Philip Roybal, and we are soon to be coming to you live 5 days a week right here and everywhere you get your podcast content material. So make sure that you smash that red subscriber button, like our videos, and don't forget to ring the bell so you don't miss one moment of the Hall of Fame College Football Podcast. Coach Roybal back in the house. First time in a few weeks that we've had him in the house, man. Glad to have you back on, Coach. How are you?
Hey, it's great to be on, man. I feel naked when I don't get to be on here, man.
Hey, man, we've been talking ball. I've been having a lot of fun, but man, we miss you when you're not here, Coach. So I'm so glad you're here. We do have some special guests with us here tonight. There's a lot to talk about, Coach. A lot of stuff going on in recruiting. It's been, this seems to be the time when it starts heating up. When the weather gets hot, so does the recruiting. So we're gonna do some recruit talk. We're gonna do some recruiting talk, and let's bring in our special guest for tonight, Jay Smith from Unfair Sports, and from Talking College Football with JJ Kitchen. JJ Kitchen, what's up, fellas?
All right,
we have the crew in. What's good?
I know what's going on, fellas.
Those are two good dudes right there, man.
Hey, man, these
Coach.
Please make sure that you hit that like button. That is the best way to help creators like ourselves make sure that we are out there on that algorithm. You can always make sure that you give us tips, or you can jump into our podcast merchandise store. You got to get in there, check out our 4-star booty material. We've got the perfect, to me, when you get blocked by Lincoln, you just got to make sure that you have a badge of honor. So we made sure to get a shirt in there for everybody that's been blocked by Lincoln Riley. So get in there, jump in there, grab one of those as well. And you know what? I didn't even have to tweet at him, Jay. I see you shaking your head in there. I didn't even have to tweet at him to get blocked. I got to tell you, it had to have been something I said on here. I don't know what it could have been.
Oh, you had to tweet at him at some point.
I'm telling you, I never added him. Never. I don't.
You said his name though, didn't you?
Oh, lots.
You know he searches his name.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's good. That works. Anyway, welcome back to the show, everybody. Excited to get this going now. And as we were talking about recruiting, season reaches record temps. Look, guys, what we were talking about was Clemson, Florida have really just kind of burned up the recruiting trail the early part of this month, right? We've seen a lot of that going on. And, I guess it's fairly understandable, but because you start looking at Sammy Brown, that was a big pickup, and that was kind of hurtful for Oklahoma fans, us included. Sammy Brown, Bryant Wesco, they ended up getting 4-star wide receiver TJ Moore as well. 9 of their 11 recruits that they have committed are blue chip recruits. We're talking about an average of 91.63 in the 247 composite there, Jay. Florida, I think everybody was kind of starting to pull. They were about ready to pull the cord on Billy Napier, and you had quarterback Austin Simmons that flipped to Ole Miss, and I think that was freaking everybody right out, right? Well, now in the last few days, and then even over a 48-hour period, they have picked up 9 commits overall for this month. They just picked up 4-star edge Jamonte Waller. This guy has 106 tackles this past season as a junior, 24 for a loss, 11.5 sacks. He is their 6th recruit in the top 100, which also includes 5-star safety Xavier Filsaime. They are now all the way up to the number 3 recruiting class in the country. And I mean, if you think about it, about a week ago, Jay, these guys were about ready to. It seemed like there was a lot of people in the fan base about ready to pull the plug on the Billy Napier experience. It's pretty wild when you start looking at it, right?
No, that's a fair point. Even those articles, I saw Josh Pate did a video about it, everybody trying to figure out what's going on with Billy Napier and everything. And you're hearing fans ready for him to get fired because of, the Austin Simmons deal and
right
everything that happened with Jaden Rashada. But I'm going to be honest, they brought in a lot of recruits. I'm wondering how many of them are going to flip. And I say that because it seems like the encouragement is to go ahead and commit now. And then you're going to see a lot of these players eventually continue to do official visits and then eventually do some flipping. And we've seen this with other schools. I know Notre Dame did that. They had like 8 players flip after they had committed to the school later on in recruiting. And so I'm wondering just what is the end game for bringing in all these players and convincing them to commit immediately? Is it really just for show? Does that help with recruiting other players? I'm truly curious what the end game is, because if we see 8 or 9 players flip from this class, it feels like it was a waste of time. It's just me.
Yeah, and I have to tell you, you mentioned Notre Dame. You hit the nail on the head. We did the same thing. And I think we've kind of changed our strategy in that area now. But again, me personally, guys, I think it's a show thing. And you think those guys, if they commit, they're able to help recruit some other players to come in. But at the end of the day, you end up losing a lot of those great players.
I think you're kind of right. And this is, we kind of goes back to the whole thing that Coach Venables is doing, where he doesn't want you to commit until you're done taking these visits. And I think a lot of people, and even within the OU fan base, you see a lot of these guys that are freaking out, especially when it gets to June and you haven't picked up a lot of these guys that you're expecting to get. Now, granted, and this is something that I say I feel like I'm a broken record saying this a lot, but I'm telling you, none of these guys are committing yet. That you're not seeing a ton of them. The ones that you are, I think that you could see some flips there. But like the main guys, the guys that Oklahoma really needs, when you start looking at your David Stones, Nigel Smiths of the world, Williams Waneri, these guys are not making their decisions yet. So it's okay that they haven't committed yet, because they haven't committed to anyone, right? And this is where I kind of feel like this is a good thing that is Coach Venables' way of doing things. He doesn't want you out there making a commitment and then still visiting other schools and things like that. We saw a guy that ended up losing his scholarship, and he was going to be a transfer guy, of course, but he ends up losing his scholarship because, he went and took after he had already committed to OU, then he goes and he takes another visit, and they kicked him right out, So I think that maybe, I think you're onto something there, Jay, when it comes to that stuff. Now, that being said, we still have a lot of Oklahoma fans that are concerned. And if you remember last year, Jackson Arnold was right after the Champion Barbecue. That was this past weekend. And that kind of served as the domino that started tipping over. What was there, like 6 top 100 recruits in the class, a number 4 overall class, guys like Peyton Bowen at the end of the year. You ended up with Deshaun McCullough on the transfer. There was a lot of these guys that, hey, we could go through Sammy Omosiho, one of our favorite guys, Makari Vickers. These guys, they were loading them up, and a lot of the guys on defense, which is who you wanted to see them get. PJ Adebawari, how do you ever forget that guy, Mr. Wingspan? So, hey, I feel like it's going to be the same kind of thing. And today, it appears that we're seeing a lot of that. And so, Jay, I wanted to throw that to you. We've got a couple of commits. We need to talk about them.
Yeah, no, we got a lot of them to jump into, but I want JJ to kind of jump in on the commitment as far as how some schools taking a whole bunch of commits and just let them keep going. Because before I pass to you, JJ, there was one thing I want to add to it is that with the Venables policy, we talk about this ad nauseum, but I think people need to understand it is that they basically are saying that if you commit to a school, but then you decide to go do additional visits, you're not really committed, are you? Cool. Like, ask yourself that question. That's truly the question that is being asked with Clemson in Oklahoma, and some other schools are starting to implement similar policies. Hell, I bet you Georgia's going to start pulling some stuff like that at some point. Some of the schools that are trying to build their rosters, they're recognizing it. Yeah, if you're going to go keep doing visits, like Ohio State, that wide receiver, he keeps telling, was it Jeremiah? Was it Smith? Is that his last name? I can't remember. Yeah, he's going everywhere, but he's saying he's Ohio State. He's going to be the next great Ohio State wide receiver. But it's like, then why do you need to go see other campuses? If you really feel like you're going to do that, focus on your training and relax. But
And I think it's okay to go and see all these campuses, and I think that Coach Venables thinks it's okay too, right? You know, he
Oh, yeah,
wants
yeah,
you
he
to
has no
go and
problem
enjoy
with
the
it.
recruiting experience, but
just don't tell me you're committed to me if you're going to go see all these other
Exactly.
places.
That's
right, because we're gonna pull that scholarship off the table for everybody else. So we want you to do the same thing, you know.
Correct. But JJ, what was your thoughts on that too?
It's been crazy. So when you look at this kind of stuff, and it's been, when you really look at this, it's been that trend since really, I want to say, since I've been following it, I want to say about 2 or 3 years ago. And we really started to get into the full swing of what NIL would look like. Okay. And obviously we had the collectives that we deal about at this point. Personally, me, I like that system that Brent Venables has. I think he's taking that from Dabo Swinney over Clemson. Personally, here in Pittsburgh with Pat Narduzzi, he's got one guy right now that's committed. Took a visit to UCF, Darius Farmer, 4-star wide receiver. But when you look at this from a perspective of where we're looking at with each player, I think most of these coaches understand that at this point they're going to different schools not just because we want to go see the campus or we want to go see the facilities. 10 years ago that was important. These guys are trying to chase the bag, and you're trying to figure out which players are serious, which players truly want to develop in the program. And I think when you look at each individual player, I love how some of these schools are saying, look, you either make the commitment, you're actually committed to us, or you're not. And you're seeing that all over the country where now coaches are starting to push back a little bit. They're seeing who can go after this guy. Me personally, I think that these commitments they have so far, perfect example would be Florida. Okay, they have a lot of these commitments already. We've already seen a couple flips and whatnot. I think what people have to realize is they'll get a couple. There'll be a couple more flips. I don't think everybody. I think that really what was crazy to me is that Florida wanted to fire Billy Napier before he even coached a game, which was absolutely wild to me. How can you want to fire a guy that hasn't even coached a game yet?
Right,
so
right.
that tells you about the fan base down there to begin with. But in reality, these fan bases need to understand that players, you're going to have the couple here and there. It's not going to be the entire commitment list. There's a lot of these guys that understand where they want to go, and they have their word, and they have it on the plate for them. But you're going to have a couple guys in each class to where you go into what I like to call, here in the middle of June, is babysitter mode. Now, if you have 20 to 21 commitments, you're trying to babysit, and you're kind of really recruiting your own class all over again to make sure that they're still committed. Figure out where they're lukewarm, who's contacting this guy. It's kind of gotten to that point. It's a shame that we have to deal with certain athletes that just want to jump across the board and look for the better deals here and there. You'd like to be in a perfect world where some of these guys truly just want to give their commitment and boom, you just call it a day. But you're going to have some of those high-profile guys. One of the guys that I really like out there that me personally, Coach and I were talking about, and Jason, we were talking about how Jason, we were talking about Nigel Smith last night. Me personally, I've heard that he's very much in tune to where he's probably going to commit to Oklahoma. Okay.
Yeah.
One, because of the relationship that he's built with Brent Venables. And one thing I want people to understand is with Oklahoma that he's taken from Clemson is that they're not going to offer every player in the sun. Okay. There's a certain player and a certain athlete that they want. So you're going to make sure you minimize what players you want. So when you get an offer from Oklahoma, that's not just an offer like you're going to anywhere else. If you're going to, for instance, South Carolina, or you're going to Arkansas, you're going to Missouri, it's not the same. You're getting an offer that very few get because they know what they're looking for. Okay, so you have the certain universities that love to do that. So I think the majority of these guys, I think Oklahoma's in a really good spot. You maybe have one, maybe two guys, but I can tell you this, Brent Venables is doing the right thing. I'm just hoping the fan base gives him enough time because I know he's going to do a good job there. It takes time. You got to revamp what Lincoln Riley did by tearing it apart by the way that he got out of Oklahoma, which was, one, horrendous the way that he did it. Personally, me, I think it was just unethical how he did stuff down there, but that's a whole nother story with Lincoln Riley. But the whole point is that Oklahoma's in a really good spot. Make sure you continue to build. You have the guy you want. When you got Bob Stoops back on campus where he's helping recruit, you clearly have the alumni base. You have all the alums back to where they want, former coaches. Continue to keep moving forward.
Absolutely.
And that team's going to be just fine.
And Hank had it just right there. Is exactly what you're saying. Is this is actual relationship recruiting? It's not just about the NIL. There's money in Oklahoma to pay these guys, but when you start looking, if it's just about money, then and Coach Venables has said this on numerous occasions. If they're a pain in the ass in recruiting, they're going to be a pain in the ass in the locker room, and he's not having it. You know, drama,
they're gonna-
drama. He said that a bunch. You know, he's not going to do it.
Yep.
So this is real relationship recruiting. These are guys, and coach, talk to us about that a bit too, because you know what it means. I mean, you were coaching at the highest level in Texas high school football, and you got to deal with some of these guys. I know you know Coach Venables. I know you know some of these other guys. What is it like what's the difference in some of these other guys? You know, I mean, I know a lot of them just throw money at it, but.
Well, and again, guys, and I think I've said this before on here. Life is about relationships, and that's the key to this whole recruiting process is those relationships that are built by those coaches. And you have, you know, obviously there's lots of different philosophies, and I as I worked with different head coaches and so forth, and their recruiters, it was interesting to see what those different philosophies were. You know, and guys, I'll tell you this: it goes as deep as, you know, coach. If you'll get these two kids to come to our place, you know, we might have a position open on our coaching staff. And I mean, it's really crazy what different philosophies are out there by all these guys. But like y'all have said, I like what Venables is doing. I think he's got the right approach. I mean, Dabo, Swinney, and again, guys, the top programs, the Georgias, the Alabamas, those programs, kids want to go there to start with because of national titles.
Sure.
And so that's always a thing. And you know, those guys, they can say, look, either you're going to commit here or we're moving on to the next guy because the next guy is right there with you, and you'll lose your opportunity here. Some programs can't say that, and so there's just a wide range of philosophy here and how you handle things. But I think the landscape is changing somewhat with the you know, NIL and so forth. So that's changed the landscape somewhat. But it's and once again, getting all these players to commit and then losing them, I think people are learning from this, because hey, it don't. And I tell you what, when I saw that we were going to talk about recruiting, I thought, hell, what does it matter? I mean, at this point, what does it really matter? Because, you know, hell, next thing you know, they've decommitted and gone someplace else because they either got more money or, you know, whatever the various reasons are. So hell, it's a crazy game. I mean, kids go all kinds of places, but finally, the last thing, relationships.
And I think that that's what we're talking about is the difference between Oklahoma. You know, they had a couple of flips last year, but both of them seem like neither one of them were OU guys. I don't think it ever really got. I think that Coach Chavis had a good relationship with the kid that ended up flipping. He was a legacy kid though for Texas. I mean, he was never coming. He was never coming. You know, I just never felt like that was ever really going to happen. And then of course you had, you know, they missed on Hicks, but that was the money thing too. But if you look at what happened at Texas A&M, a lot of those guys that were in that historical class no longer in the program, right? So again, now you are. Go ahead, Jay.
I was gonna say, yeah, anybody that you look at with A&M outside of the Elijah Robinson's recruits basically bounced out. Elijah Robinson is the line coach at A&M, and he's a legendary coach. Everyone loves him. His players love him, and he's the one that keeps it all together. He's like the glue, really the glue guy, especially with that defensive line and bringing in those 5 stars. So yeah, there's a lot of things going on with that whole situation, but.
Right.
I wanted to go ahead and jump in too and talk about those recruits we were talking about, Jason. You kind of teed me up for earlier. Let's lead right into that. So Oklahoma just got 2 commitments. You had James Nesta, the linebacker out of North Carolina, at William Amos Hugh High School. He's the number 9 player in North Carolina, and at 4-star linebacker, 6'4", 6'5" ish, 205. The big thing about him though is he's also a pitcher. Like I think he's the number 1 pitcher out of North Carolina in high school rankings. Like he's a monster on the mound, and he's coming to Oklahoma to play both sports. And so What's cool about it is
Last
twofold.
time that
One,
worked out okay, didn't it?
it did. Twofold. One, it worked out very well for Kyler Murray because
Yeah.
Oklahoma was able to figure out how to let him play football and play quarterback and work it in with baseball. And so, yes, that did happen under the Riley regime. But keep this in mind: the baseball coach Skip Johnson, who's still at Oklahoma right now, and it is an elite recruiter. He's the one that figured it out. He let football do their thing, and then once football was done, he made it to where Kyler could easily transition back to the baseball field. He's going to do the same thing for Nesta, and that's kind of the key point is Nesta goes out there, he plays football, does his thing, and he's going to transition him right into the baseball mound, and the opportunity to play SEC baseball was a big deal for Nesta also.
That's a huge deal. That's
went
it.
through
And,
and
I
looked
hadn't
at his
really
offer
thought about
list.
that.
I looked through his
big
offer
thing.
list. Tennessee offered him, and Tennessee's in the College Football World Series right now. They're
Mm-hmm.
playing LSU tonight, if I'm correct, and they just won their game before. So Tennessee had him as a offer and a visit. A&M had him. A lot of the SEC schools were actually pitching him also, and so Nesta isn't like he's top 300, but he's not like your top 5 in the football side. But baseball, he's so hot. All these schools said no, we want to offer him in both sports, so that's a big deal. The second pickup was Aduzi Ezukama. His brother, Eric Ezukama, plays wide receiver for the Miami Dolphins. He was recruited by Emmett Jones to Texas Tech. Went from Tech, got drafted in 2022 to the Dolphins, and now Aduzi is coming from the Fort Worth area because of Emmett Jones to Oklahoma. 6'4", about 180, 190. Tall, lanky, fast, and he's got some ability, and so the dominoes are slowly starting to hit for Oklahoma because, as mentioned before, they were taking their time with multiple recruiting of a player. You had Champ U Barbecue Weekend, which is the big weekend, the weekend before, and that was a huge one. Now, at this point, you get the party at the Palace at the end of July because the dead period hits in most of July. And the goal is if you get as many commitments up into the party, you're winning because then the season starts. Then it's focusing on football. All those kids are focusing on high school football, and that's what you want to do. You want to get them about July is the best time, and that's what happened last year. Most of the commits came in July, specifically because they wanted to make sure they were done before they started their senior season.
Well,
I think with Nigel Smith, he's not going to do his until his senior night at the new stadium sometime in September. So we'll cross our fingers on that.
But in how many times has Nigel been at games in the last couple of years anyway? I mean, this is a guy that has been at Oklahoma a ton. He's got a lot of unofficials that he's been there. So even in the last couple of years. So that's a big, again, that was, I've said it before. That's my favorite recruit in the country because I feel like Stoney's going to be the guy. David Stone Jr., we expect him to end up at Oklahoma. That's where he wants to be. He's always throwing the horns down, those kind of things. And I mean, we just feel like that's probably going to happen. You got to make your focus on some of these other guys that can make up that depth. Because if you're going to run the defense that Coach Venables runs, you got to have a lot of guys along that defensive line. We've talked about that ad nauseum, but I wanted to kind of kick that back to you just a little bit there, JJ, because you talked about he came in and did some work with Aaron Donald. Nigel did, and for a time you felt like there was a possibility that he was going to come to Pitt. How did it end up getting flipped back over to talk to us a little bit about how that came back to where you feel like it's Oklahoma still.
Yeah, so when he came up here, one, that was a heck of a visit. It was unofficial, did it on his own dime, but he came up here, got to meet a guy like Aaron Donald, which again, when you get to work out with the best defensive player probably in this generation and maybe of all time, it's a very very few far in between opportunity you to have. I just think one. Pitt's actually, again, rebuilding their defensive line again, or reloading, I should say. They had a couple guys on the board. They're only taking so many guys. They actually have 3 4-star commitments already. I just think it fell out. But 2, you got to think about it too. I think from where he's at in general, I just think that he's built a great relationship with Brent Venables. And again, guys, and I thought Coach did a hell of a job talking about it. The relationships are so important in this stage of the game whenever a guy's, and especially a young man, is looking to go somewhere. And kind of how I put it, it's kind of like the business world where we talk about it goes into sales. Okay, when you're looking at a young man, or you're talking to a client, or you're talking to a customer, or anything, you're able to really decipher what they want, where they want to do it at, what is the top 3 things they look at? You're really asking the open-ended questions: who, what, when, where, how, and why. What makes you? What are you looking for? Are you looking for the academic side of your college experience? You want to win national championships? You want to go to the National Football League? I can tell you this: the majority of the guys that go through any of these visits, one, they'll bring up first the NIL stuff, and you're able to kind of sift that stuff away. If that's the first thing that comes out of their mouth, and that's kind of the thing they're talking about, those guys kind of get pushed to the side a little bit because, one, that's kind of what they're looking at.
gets rid of them right away. He says they're done. Whenever they bring it up first, he's done with it. Yeah.
We want certain guys that are going to fit our culture and our mold. Okay. So when you look at the relationship building, when you're asking those questions, you're listening to when you're listening to the client, or in this case, it's the student athlete that comes onto your campus. You want to make sure you're listening. What's the most important? And then I'm going to answer about how we can fulfill those dreams, but more importantly, those goals to come here. I think Brent Venables has done a good job. One, I like their staff in general. Obviously, on the offensive side of the ball, I always loved Jeff Levy, especially when he came in from Ole Miss. I thought that was a hell of a hire for Brent Venables. It's kind of one of the things where when you're a defensive coach, I think the most important hire you can make is your offensive coordinator, because that's the head coach of your offense. Whether people want to talk about it or not, that's the head coach of your offense. Let him coach. Some of these head coaches, they want to get hands-on with everything. Let the guy do his job. But I just think overall, Nigel Smith, it's not just even how Pitt was recruiting him in the time when they were going after him. It's not just one guy. The real good staffs out there will say all 10 of our assistants are going to go after this guy. You want to build that relationship from the ground up, contact that individual every single day. And it's not just about football. And I think it's why people have to realize Brent Venables and what he does is so good. And it's kind of like, it reminds me of what Pitt does. You want to ask about not just the football aspect, but ask, he's a young man, 17, 18 years old. What's going on in that young man's life? And when you're able to build that relationship and to tell those guys, hey, we're not just here for the football aspect of what you're looking to be. I'm looking to treat you like a young man, but also to grow you and develop you. That's the biggest thing you want to look at. And these guys think about that stuff all the time, and it means a lot to these guys. So when you're answering these questions for these young men, you're looking to say, hey, look, when you come to our program A and B over there, they might just have you as a number. Here, we're going to know your first name, your last name, your family, what's going on, and we're going to treat you better than anybody else will. And that goes into a lot of what these student athletes look at every time they make a decision.
Agreed.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. And one of the things that I was most impressed with Nigel during this whole time was after the kid that ended up going to Oregon, and everybody flipped out, right? And you had a lot of stuff that was being said on Twitter, and then of course you get the other fan bases, and who's to say who's a Oklahoma fan versus who's a troll fan from another one, making yourself look like one. There's a lot of that that goes on, but there was a lot of dumbasses that were doing that stuff, right? And unfortunately, you got that in every fan base. You're just going to see a lot of that now.
Every fan base has a fatalistic person in it. Believe me.
Oh, oh yeah, man, no doubt about it. But one thing I'd say is, it's funny that with him, he commented on it. He was surprised by it, and then you had some A&M folks, which was funny to me, that some A&M fans were like, oh, why would you go to that trash program and blah blah blah, and when their fans are talking to you like that, and he goes, why in the hell would I take advice from somebody or criticism from somebody that I wouldn't take advice from? So, but I mean, this is one of the few times I've ever seen him really respond to anybody on Twitter. And it was such a grown-up thing to say. And this is why, hey, look, there's a lot of reasons I love this kid. I like him as an Oklahoma Sooner. And that's, you want to see these grown-up things, you want to see those things. And I think that's why I think that he's an important piece to that puzzle because of the leadership he'll bring just from that standpoint alone, right? That's where one of the things that I like the most about Nigel. So again, and the soul mission is a big part of that as well. Look, these guys, it matters to these guys. It does. And so when you know that a lot of these fans that are you're so anxious to see them get these commitments. But what the hell's the point if they commit in April or May if they're going to unwind by the time December gets here? It just doesn't matter. Or by the time even July gets here, they're unwound and they're gone somewhere else. So, it's better just to wait it out. And I mean, I can tell you now, that I know for sure, and Jay, you can probably back me up on this. I know that David Stone has tried multiple times to make his commitment go. But they
Yeah.
want him to go to all these other places. They want him to do his OVs and finish them off, right?
Yeah,
We
he
know.
said that in an article. I think it was like Brandon Drum when it was with 24/7 at the time, and he said that basically, it was like in the
I
it
remember
was
that.
in the board on the message board. He said that basically Stone told him, it's okay for him to say it, but he tried to commit like 2 or 3 times, and the coaching staff kept telling him, "Nah, you plan on doing visits, right?
Right.
Don't commit. Don't do that. I want you to go enjoy your experience. Don't feel like you're being held back or hindered.
That's right.
Don't go in there thinking that." Basically, I'm paraphrasing what it feels like they were saying is that don't go in there jaded when you visit them. Just say, "Oh, I'm just coming here for the visit." But no, enjoy it and see what you feel. And then if your heart brings you right back, come on back. And,
Yeah,
and
and
most
you
likely it's going to be like he just tweeted out a whole bunch of stuff today. I'm not sure if any of y'all saw this, but 24/7 tweeted out photo of a graphic of the top 10 players left, top 10 players in rankings right now, and they had all the players, where they were committed and all of that. They had Williams Winery on there, and they said a crystal ball to Oklahoma, right? Well, the number 10 player on their list is David Stone, but it said committed to Oklahoma, and so the graphic went up. Some people saw it. They got snatched down real quick. They redid the graphic and put in their crystal ball to Oklahoma because that's what he is.
Right,
and
right.
so literally about 10 minutes ago, I just saw some tweets. Somebody just sent me a couple of tweets that he's basically kind of ranting about it. Like, hey, I haven't made a decision yet. No decision's been made. I think he's lying. But no decision's been made yet. And I'm not.
he's been
It's
playing
going to
the
be my
game, too.
decision. I have no silence. He's like, I have called some schools and told them if they're in or not, but I'm still going to make my decision and take my time and do my visits, in which he stated before his last visit is MSU this week. So he'll be at Michigan State, think Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, or Thursday, Friday, Saturday. After that, I expect a commitment early July because then he'll be going back to IMG mid-July
Right.
to go and get some training and stuff for the season. And so
Get-
he's on campus today, hanging out with his IMG teammate at Oklahoma. He's on campus. He's already been reported to be seen on
Nice.
campus kicking it with his boy, and he's been here literally every weekend since he's been back in the state. So, I mean, the tea leaves tell us one thing, Stoney.
Yeah.
I totally get that this is your decision. We just gonna wait for you to decide, but
And yeah,
tea leaves are
just
telling
take
us
your time
something.
with it. We don't care anything about it. We know he's. I mean, we expect he's probably going to be there, and we also would. I would say this, in that chance, that odd chance that he doesn't end up with OU. We know why that is too. We know why that is. It's not going to be because that's not where he wants to go. It's going to be because of the other stuff. The off the field stuff that his mother's concerned about, which I think that she's. From what we continue to hear is that I think that Coach Venables and that staff, Coach Bates, they're showing, that how much they care about these kids in all ways, right? Which that's so important. And Coach, but JJ, I wanted to also say this. You brought up the business world and how you kind of pull back. And in sales, and I've been in sales, sometimes the best way to get a deal is what? To just take it away. To not say yes, to not just give it to them and say, yeah, and be so thirsty for them to make that commitment right then and there, because that's what you're trying to do is get them, and you're trying so hard, right?
ABC, always be closing. And guess what? That's a
Correct.
Colombo close. Okay. So basically
Yeah.
what you're doing is basically when you walk in there, you'll have it on the table, and look, they'll be deciding, and you know what? You put your hand on the table and say, you know what? I think I'm pressuring you. You know what? I don't want to put that too much pressure on you. Obviously, coming to Oklahoma means something, and it's not for everybody. So I really want you to think about it hard and clear, because I know the guys that are on board right now,
This
we
isn't
have that
for
championship
everybody.
mindset. It's
Yeah.
not for everybody. And all of a sudden, the Colombo close, you get them involved with it, and they're thinking like, no, you're not pressuring me. You ain't pressuring me. I want this work. I want this. And all of a sudden, you're right back in the game, and you got a sale. Boom.
Yeah. And I agree with
Like
you.
Stevie
He's
Wonder, signed,
definitely
sealed,
he
delivered,
is
maybe.
definitely a foundational player. I think he's very important. There's other guys out there. I mean, we're talking about, there's an opportunity to get Dominic McKinley. There's an opportunity, and I know that that's a small opportunity because he's an LSU kid, or he's from Louisiana. But there's an opportunity that he could, they're making a good relationship with him. Apparently his family really likes him, really likes Coach Bates and Coach Venables. And I mean, that matters, right? And then you've got, I think that JJA is probably gone. But Williams Nwaneri, I mean, he's got one of his best friends is already on the team, Caden Green, and then aren't they recruiting somebody else from the same school or didn't he just commit or something? There's another guy right from there from Lee Summit North, right? Jay?
Yeah.
Yeah, or somebody that they're after anyway. But
Right.
so you can see a lot of that kind of, and of course he's made a good relation. I think it's going to be. I think we've talked about this. It's either going to be OU or Tennessee there, right?
Yeah, for Nwaneri. Well, yeah, that's what's being assumed, and then something leaked out that he could potentially be going to go visit Georgia this weekend. He's visiting Missouri Thursday. They moved it up.
Sure.
That's one of the reports I read, and then he'll be going to Georgia potentially Georgia over the weekend. I think he's supposed to be in Atlanta for a brother's birthday party or something, and so we don't know what's true, what's not true. We'll figure it out. But he may do an unofficial to Georgia.
He can go and do whatever he wants because he hasn't made that commitment yet. And that's the beauty of it. But
I'm anticipating a commitment
that when
early
you do
July.
kind of take it away and you don't tell them that, hey, yeah, go ahead and make the commitment, but you can go ahead and go, because I think when Coach Venables did that with the receiver last year, Anthony Edwards or Anthony
Evans,
Evans,
yeah.
And he let him go to Georgia, and he knew not to do that. And look what happened. He flipped right away.
I think he knew that he was
flipping.
The
last time. I think it was too. I think that was the case as well.
I think the same thing with Colton Vasek was the exact same thing. I think that once Vasek, they started shopping for other players at the same time, because it was one of those. Okay, well, we know that you're going to flip. Then okay, that's fine. If you because I mean with that the weird thing with both of those players was Vasek is a Texas legacy. Him and his dad go to games all the time, and so of course you can anticipate him being at DKR for more games because they always go. And then Evans,
but when he wanted to go to the Red River game and be on the Texas sideline instead, that didn't seem right.
I mean, but season tickets, they go to Texas games all the time. That's just his dad's a legacy. And rumor has it his dad was losing business because his son decided to go on the other side of the river. And I could totally understand that too, because fans are petty for some really weird reason.
Yes, they are. Not at all. Not at all. Never.
The Evans one was even more fascinating. Right. You know what I'm saying? Like, nah, fans petty. What are we talking about?
Oh, these people wouldn't do that.
But Evans, his mom was from Georgia, and so they relocated because of the military to be in San Diego, and he got an opportunity to take her to a game at Georgia, and was like, oh yeah, he's committing to Georgia. Like, his mom would love that because she was a Georgia fan. She grew up in Georgia.
Well, that was his excuse that he needed to take his mom. She'd never been to a game in Athens.
Free trip.
Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, Coach.
But guys, that kind of leads me into what you touched on. You guys touched on this earlier, but when all these schools and coaches are dating all these players, hey, you better date their girlfriend. You better date mom. You better date dad. It's the whole thing, and we can't forget that. And because it's important that all those people feel good about that player going to that school. And you know what? We're all influenced by those people that we love and surround us. And it's critical when you're out recruiting that those people feel good too.
Right. Yeah, no doubt about it. But I think that in the end, look, are they going to be in the top 5 again? Maybe not. I'm pretty sure they'll be in the top 10. And if they get 2 of these guys, it's almost for sure that they'll be in the top 5, right? I mean, I'm guessing that I'm thinking they're still going to get somewhere in the 3 area. But if you get 2, you cannot call this a bad recruiting cycle for this. I mean, but I think that what Hank's talking about, the guys gathering around Stoney, right? That picture that you put up on your show when we were on Sunday, Jay.
Yeah.
Wow. And these guys, they seem to want to play. It's something I said to you then. They seem to want to play together. They're always retweeting each other's stuff. They're always talking about, hey, wouldn't it be cool to team up here? Wouldn't it be cool to team up there? Blah, 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 blah. They're talking to the same. And don't think for one second they're not talking to each other about what they want to be and where they want to be, right? So I feel like this is going to be important. It's going to be important, but I also feel like you got to let them do whatever they're going to do. And I think that the only way to make sure that you're going to get these guys is to let them go ahead. The more I've seen what this is, Because I'll admit, at first I was like, "What the hell's he doing?" You know,
Yeah.
why would you tell them not to commit? I didn't like it. Most of last year I didn't like it. Right. The more I've seen, it's not that hard. You got the number 4 class in 2023. You're working towards that again. And the guys that you're looking at are unbelievable. We're talking about, there's even another quarterback in the mix after you got Michael Hawkins that they're still looking at because of the way they're recruiting. So it may not be happening as quick as it used to with Lincoln Riley, but you're getting more depth at the positions you need the most. And it's not just a bunch of fluff that's coming out of Lincoln's mouth and then pissing these guys off later down the line. So, it is what it is, man. I'm excited. I really am. I'm excited about the whole thing.
Same.
We can go ahead and move on from that. Let's talk about Elite 11 a little bit, guys. Did you guys get into some of the, and honestly, I wanted to before we get into Elite 11, I want to talk about another Big 12 coach that has been really doing the thing. And now he had a kid at Elite 11 as well. But talking about Texas Tech, Joey McGuire, guys, top 25 class for 2023. I don't remember the last time Texas Tech did that, right? I do not remember the last time they did that, okay? Even when Coach Leach was there, that's not what they were doing, right? They've got right now, I heard this today and I was laughing about this. This is pretty good stuff for an Oklahoma fan. This is cool. Micah Hudson canceled his official visit to Texas after his OV last weekend at Texas Tech. Micah Hudson's the number 1 receiver in the country. And he seems to be playing this pretty well. I like the way he plays around on social media. He's a pretty funny kid. But this kid is the real deal. They also signed right after their weekend that they just had Tyson Turner, a 4-star receiver as well. You've got Baron Morton coming in, or he's going to be in the class this year, backing up, being the backup. But this is a kid that everybody expects to be a big time quarterback moving forward. But not only that, the most impressive guy that didn't win the MVP at the Elite 11, Will Hammond, he lit it up over there. Everybody, I've looked at 4 or 5 different articles plus videos and stuff like that, and everybody continues to bring up Will Hammond. What the hell is Joey McGuire doing to get these guys to go to Lubbock? What do you think? What do you think's going on there, JJ?
I'll tell you what, and we talked about a little bit last night about Joey McGuire. Let me tell you something. Obviously, he's a hell of a coach for his first year, especially taking over a Texas Tech program that hasn't really had. When's the last time they had success? No. But when we look at this, okay, a guy that is a homestay at Texas, obviously a great Texas high school head coach, started with his roots there. I remember when they hired him. Obviously, he came from Baylor. Was at Baylor. I knew it when they hired him. It was going to be a good spot for him. Whenever you're a guy that's down in Texas and you have the roots, but more importantly, the other coaches, and then on top of that, your reputation is as high as it is with him. You're kind of setting yourself up for immediate success. And when you're able to get a guy on campus like that, and they automatically stop, they decline the visit to Texas, you're basically, what that means is he sold him on the vision of what Texas Tech can be. And again, we go back to it.
There too, by the way.
Relationships. It's the heartbeat of what they're trying to sell. They'll never be able to do anything towards of like NIL with what Texas is doing, but they're selling the relationship. Why the relationship is more important? We'll take care of you better than Texas can. Texas might have 10 guys that might be towards the same type of talent as you. Right. We might have talent like that, but we treat our players a lot better than what they do. It's not just a number game with us. We know our guys personally in and out. Listen, and it's not a 4-year decision. It's a 40-year decision. You're selling the dream, and guys are understanding that. And now guess what? He's got something to sell on top of that. Hey,
well, and coaches said all along, like when he was at Baylor, that was the guy that was the reason that Baylor was so good. Coach, you could top that in there because you've been saying it a lot lately that you're not sold on Baylor whatsoever. So but ever since he left, obviously they did not have a good season last year, and it seems to be weird.
I'm telling you, and like you said, Jason, I've been preaching that for a while now. When he left to go to Tech, that killed Baylor, and I think it's going to continue to do so. But he again, and y'all said it already. He builds those relationships. Joey McGuire is one of the most genuine, good-hearted people, and when you talk to Joey, I mean, you can talk to him for 5 minutes, and you already feel like he's your best friend.
Yeah.
And that's and he expects that from his staff as well, guys.
Mhm.
That's the expectation of his staff. You know what? If you're not genuine, then you don't need to be on this staff. And that's what's helping them recruit the type of kids that they're recruiting. And I'm just telling you, they're my team this year to be a surprise team and have an incredible season.
We talked about that last night as a dark horse in
We
the Big
did
12.
too. And folks, make sure
No
that
doubt.
you get over there. Check out the stream that we did last night on JJ's show. Talking college football with JJ Kitchen. We had a great time on his show last night. We talked about a lot of that, and I agree. It
Coach
made
hit
me
it right on
kind of
the
get
head.
into start looking at a lot of this stuff. But I mean, man, Will Hammond looked really, really good. I don't know how much you guys saw of this Elite 11. The kid's a stud athlete. The things that I was seeing out of him that was really, his athleticism was great. That was fine. But he threw the ball well, right? He comes in as a 3-star, but he had such a command of what they were doing, and his timing was really good. And obviously, you're not playing in pads or anything like that, but you can tell the difference in these kids, right? And out of everybody there, Dylan Raiola, you expected for him to do what he did, and he did great. He looked really good. You've got guys like, obviously we'll get into that a little bit more here in just a minute. But I mean, a lot of the guys that you expected to do that. But I heard Josh Pate earlier saying, man, nobody expected this, and he's the first guy I talked to, and
his accuracy was impeccable.
It was impeccable.
You know, if you saw him on the 7-on-7 pieces, 10 for 13, guys.
Yeah.
And you guys know this. You're not just throwing against some slugs out there. You're throwing
they
against
bring in
other great
studs.
D1
They bring in
kids.
studs. Yeah,
exactly.
They bring in
The
some of the best
studs are there.
receivers. They bring in some of the best DBs in the country
Yes.
to go to Elite 11. That's not just a quarterback thing. So yeah, it was pretty impressive, man. And so for this guy to be able to get in there, and how much of that, Jay, do you think has to do with beating Oklahoma and Texas last season?
Ooh.
I mean, it doesn't happen very often.
You sell it,
those
baby.
It
guys,
doesn't.
right?
It doesn't.
Hey.
It doesn't.
But when you're recruiting, you sell it. You
better.
go out there and sell. Hey, we beat these guys. We're on the rise.
And that's a good leveraging point when it comes to on the recruiting trail. So remind players like, oh yeah, we beat them the last few years. I mean, I bet Kansas was doing that all the time when they was going against Texas. It's like, yeah,
Sure.
we beat them 2 years in a row, and we beat them in Texas. And so, I guess now the question is going to be
1,200 days that Texas didn't beat Kansas, man.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That's true. It's been a while. So I'm guessing the question is going to be how much more of that will Tech use going forward when it comes to the recruiting?
Yeah, but but how much do you think has to do with the fact that they did do that? I mean, he came in and I mean, it's like Coach said, you can listen to him talk, and he's inspiring. You're going to hear him, and I liked hearing what he had to say in the locker rooms and stuff like that.
Yeah,
and from everything that you hear about what he was doing at Baylor as the assistant head coach, they loved him, and obviously things weren't as good last season at Baylor, and we're going to find out if they are. And it could be as simple as the quarterback kind of sucked last year, but he could be better, and we'll find out. But honestly, I think something's up there too. The more I listen to Coach say it, and the more and even like I've heard Logan said it, our guys from Lone Star that we talk to a lot, he's talked about it too, that he's just not sure. He's just not sure what's going on either. And, and he hates it. The coach says the shit all the time, but I think he's coming around too. Honestly, I just feel like, yeah, he should have it mounted on his desk, man. Listen, think about it. It's how many coaches period can say that they beat Texas and Oklahoma in the same season from any school. Right. What happened? We just lost Jay. Oh, he may have just told me he was out. Yeah. About to jump. Okay. Yeah. Sorry about that. Jay, man, I should have let him, oh yeah, he did say great hanging. glad you came in. Hey, Jay's one of my favorites, man. He's got to jump on the live himself as well. But listen, yeah. Bottom line is, to me, this is a guy that is. Look, you just don't see it very often that you're going to get top 25 classes. And this class, from what I can tell, they're only going to get about 14 kids. So they're probably not going to stay. They're not going to get that high up in the rankings because there's just by the number of kids they're going to get, right? It's just not going to be enough to be in the top 10 probably. But it's the kids that they're getting. And, when you talk about the guys that they already got with Baron Morton, and Okie Cody talks about this guy a lot. This kid looks like he's going to be very, very good. And the guy that they got in right now is really good, right? And so you look at that, and then you got Will Hammond coming in right behind him, and then, man, if you're Micah Hudson, it's not that hard to be sold on something like that. And by the way, Micah's dad also played at Tech. So that, it is a legacy there. But that doesn't, when you're the number one receiver in the country, you can go where the hell you want. You know what I mean? And and if your dad played at Tech, he knows what it's like to not win. So it's kind of hard unless you can sell. It's not the same as being a legacy to Texas or Oklahoma, right? It's really not, because Tech, and I'm not hating on Tech. I'm saying that they just don't have that history of being a championship program. So go ahead, Coach.
And that's understandable, because you got to look at too. Look at Texas to begin with, and the Division I programs that are there. There's a lot of talent in Texas, but guess what? When you got 4 or 5 different D1 schools that are in there, when you got Texas Tech, Baylor, Texas A&M. Usually your Texas A&M and your Texas will take it, and obviously Oklahoma's not too far away, so they're going to dip in there. Plus you'll have Alabama dip in there, Georgia dip in there. So you're dealing with a lot of different aspects. That's why it's very challenging. In Texas, obviously being the brand really in the major market in Texas, but I think what makes Texas Tech so valuable and so attractive is the coaching development, but the culture that he's building there. You can't deny that. And I think it's why a lot of these kids are starting to look at that. And I think the tide's starting to change a little bit. When you walk in there day one, first year, and you get at least 8 wins, you're changing something. And now you have something to sell, and now you're really starting to shift. Now you can really start to look at other schools and say, man, Sark's been over at Texas for how many years now? Hasn't done anything. What's he been doing? So it's going to be interesting to see, hey, how can we leverage this? It's going to be fun to watch.
Yeah. And look, man, I covered Tech for a good amount of time. And we living in that area and stuff like that. You get to know some of these Tech folks. There's some good people there. There's some crazy people over there too. But listen, the bottom line is that they love a winner over there. I'll tell you that. When they start winning, and whether it be in basketball or whatever it is, they get behind them very much so. So I think that he's doing a hell of a job, and no matter what, you gotta give him props for what he's done. We talked about the things that you're seeing from, obviously Coach Venables is starting to catch his stride out there on the recruiting trail, but that's what we were talking about coming into the show. There's a lot of competition. This is not a place you're used to seeing the competition come from if you are Oklahoma. And you are getting competition here. That's different. And so we needed to talk about it. So let's go ahead and go ahead, Coach. Yes.
And let me just say this. Another thing, guys, he's doing a hell of a job recruiting there because, so let's just use Texas as an example. You want to, as a kid, a player coming in, you want to go to Austin or you want to go to Lubbock? Let's face it, guys.
That's an easy way to do that. Yeah, that's an easy way to recruit against Tech.
Exactly, and but I tell you what, just looking at Tech and talking about Joey's recruiting, guys, he's got I think 4 or 5 4-star players that they traditionally don't get. They play football with 3 stars, 3-star type players all the time, and have for years. But when
Leach was there, that's volumes. What happened. Yeah. And somebody said something about, Leach took them to number 2. Well, what happened when they got to number 2? They got thumped. Yeah. They got thumped by Oklahoma. They didn't make it into the play or into the championship game. And listen, they had beaten Texas. but on the Crabtree play that he tiptoed that sideline. I mean,
was
that
gonna
was
say,
one of the
that's
most amazing plays ever, right?
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
and that
Absolutely.
wasn't because of Leach. I mean, and I love Coach
No.
Leach. Don't get me. And
Oh, I
by
did
the
too.
way, let's we should say that Coach Leach was voted into their Hall of Honor this past weekend, which I'm very excited to hear about that. And Michael Crabtree was actually into their Hall of Fame, so that's
Yeah.
big for them,
Yeah.
and good for. And listen, man, we're going to be covering Tech a lot coming up. We just have to. We're in the area, and Oklahoma's not playing them this year, so. Man, it's weird to me, right? Unless you get them in the championship game, which I really do believe, like you said earlier, they are a dark horse team. I think it's them, and I think it's K-State that are those dark horse teams that if Oklahoma and Texas don't make it in, it's going to be one of those two teams. I don't think that I can't really see another one.
And Jason, you talked about that a little bit, from before too. Texas has the roster, but guess what? Kansas, they got the coaching. Texas Tech, they got the coaching. So you look at it from a perspective of, what can it actually look like? I don't know. I really question Texas at this point. I think that these coaches, they understand Kansas State has proven that Chris Klein has done a hell of a job at Kansas State. He's done a tremendous job.
Kleiman and the other, we talked about it last night. Both of the Kansas coaches are insane.
Yeah, Coach Leipold, unreal,
very, very good.
Absolutely. Jason, one more thing I want to mention real quick is, and obviously I'm always pitching Notre Dame a little bit, but
please do bring it up.
I was just glad to see that we had, an Elite 11 quarterback in the mix,
and he looks
with
good,
CJ
dude.
Carr.
I was going to bring him up.
I tell you what I did see in him though is he doesn't have a lot of arm strength. Obviously, I think you get him in the weight room and that'll come. But I did like his accuracy, and he does some good things. But you think back to our season last year with Notre Dame, and they, if we'd have had him last year, we'd have been a hell of a lot better than even as a freshman. As a high school player, would have been a hell of a lot better. But I was just excited to see that. So again, kudos to Marcus and his.
Again, I'm going to say Marcus is doing a great job, Coach. I look. We talked about this a little bit, maybe last week.
He's recruiting better than Brian Kelly.
He is recruiting better than Brian.
Well,
Kelly.
He's not playing golf all the damn time.
But Brian, you hear it all the time how hard it is to recruit to Notre Dame, and I know it's the to get in, it's different, right? I think it's a depth thing, and I think that Brian did a great job there, and I think that this is where the reason we feel like they could win the national championship this year is because he's never had these kind of guys. But you're starting to see Marcus get some of these kids that Brian never got. Right. Which is just, hey. And I think a lot of it has to do with, man, they kind of look up to Marcus, man. He was a baller himself when he played at Ohio State. That dude was a stud. So
again, he's one of those one of those elite coaches that builds relationships with players and families, and so again, that's another big thing, and we're seeing those guys are all creeping to the top of all the recruiting is those guys that are great at building those relationships.
Are they playing in Ireland this year, as Kim's asking?
They are. First ball game against Navy.
Cool. That's cool.
Oh, wow.
Very cool.
I came really close to going, but after I figured what it was going to cost me about $20,000, I decided to stay home. I love my Irish, but not $20,000.
It's a bit of a trip, bro. It's a bit of a trip, but it is beautiful over there, man. It would be amazing.
Yeah.
Talk about,
Coach, you got to do what Nebraska fans did: spend $20,000 and then lose. Can you imagine that? Them bastards, they lost to Northwestern. I got to tell you what, man.
Yeah.
Hey, great point. But I told somebody the other day, shit, I'm glad we're not playing Marshall over there.
Yeah. No kidding, right? Sheesh. Yeah. And Brian Kelly was born for the Bayou, never even knew it. Yeah, he was born in Boston. So he definitely didn't know it.
You mean his family wasn't from there?
No, it wouldn't. That was the worst ever. Yeah,
look, there's some gumbo down there.
And talking about Brian Kelly's recruiting guys, because I will hand it to him. I'm not a Kelly fan. Right. Haven't been.
Nobody is, but nobody likes him. I don't think anybody likes him that's an LSU fan.
Well, I'm not going to use the
They
word I
like him
want to
because he
use for
coaches
him,
there. That's why.
but
Yeah.
but here's the thing. He did. I'll hand this to him. He took us from when we weren't winning and not being very good to at least being on the board of success somewhat. But
National
again,
championship
couldn't
game.
be right national championship game, but we couldn't win the big ones. And but again, I go back to his recruiting, which is obviously what we're talking about. And the thing about him and everything, I don't have proof of this, but everything that came back to me was he didn't even hardly go to the kids' homes.
Yeah.
He was out spending his time golfing all the
Mhm.
damn time. And so as I hear what he's doing at LSU
Well, when you
now,
become the
I
winningest
think he
coach in
might have
Notre Dame
learned.
history, you kind of, listen, I mean, but you become the winningest coach in Notre Dame history, you kind of get a little,
Oh, come on, man.
yeah.
You
No,
know,
listen,
I can tell you this. I had a couple obviously from here in Pittsburgh, from Pittsburgh Central Catholic. We had a couple guys go up there, and a dear friend of mine, he was not a fan. Okay, and I can tell you, Kurt Heinisch is a dear friend of mine, captain at Notre Dame.
absolutely.
I can tell you this: a hell of a young man. Character-wise, it's incredible. The open door policy by Brian Kelly was a farce. Phil Dracovic was there. We've had that conversation.
Yeah.
Just I'm not a fan of him. But I can tell you
No.
this though, Kirk talked about it right away. Marcus Freeman's the guy. I hope they don't put too much pressure on because he is that good of a coach. Just give him a little
Right.
bit of time.
Give him
Notre
some
Dame will be
time.
back where it belongs. I can
Yeah.
tell you that right now. Just
I-
let it be. Let him do his thing. He's going to do a hell of a job. You just found your coach for the next 30 years. It's like the
I
Pittsburgh
agree.
Steelers. It's like the Pittsburgh Steelers. You find your guy, you let him be there for 30 years and do your thing.
right.
That's the way to look
Absolutely.
at it.
And,
Well,
and guys, by the
but they
way,
got a
I'm also
quarterback.
happy.
They
Yes.
got a quarterback
and,
this year.
and the other thing I'm happy about too is the change in athletic director. I think Swarbrick has done a great job, but I'm excited about that change as well.
And he's coming from NBC. And that kind of
Yes.
tells you too. And from what I've been told too, I think Notre Dame's going to get a good deal where they're going to probably get $50 to $60 million from NBC in their TV deal. That's what I've been told.
Absolutely.
But
Absolutely.
I don't know. But that was something that we brought up before, and we didn't get to talk about it so much on here. But what was the deal with the AAU then? Why? If they're gonna stay independent,
I
Trying to grab him.
I don't know.
That's the Big Ten. That's the Big Ten trying to grab them. But guess what? Notre Dame strides and provides itself, and it's honestly it's a tradition. And ACC Commissioner Jim Phillips talked about it because he worked there for 5 years. That's a pride thing. I mean, I remember growing up. My grandmother was a huge ACC fan, but because obviously Notre Dame, their Olympic sports are part of it. But obviously a Notre Dame fan. I can tell you this: if there's one thing I know. You look at the profits, for
And they're
instance, the teams that
Catholics.
actually reported it. Notre Dame was in the top 10 in reported revenue last year for teams in the college football. They don't need the media the media rights deals, okay? The
No, they
50 to $60 million.
It's not about
that's
the money,
icing on the
JJ.
cake.
That's not. We're not bringing it up about the money. We're bringing it up about if they don't let them get into the playoff, because that's been a lot of the talk that you hear is that the only way that you can play for the championship is if you join a conference. There's a lot of people out there that are trying to make that happen.
I'd be
But
shocked.
it's not there yet.
Yeah, it's 12 teams. Now, obviously, but here's what sucks. They can't get in the top 6 seeds. That's the only thing that's really holding it back. They can't
And
get in the
that's
top
hard.
6 seeds.
Right.
That's
And it's
I mean,
hard.
do
So,
you
yeah, their schedule
really
will be
have an
tough.
opportunity to go in and win the thing if you come in the bottom half? Because no chance of getting even if you win in undefeated,
Well,
no bye game.
I'm gonna give you my coach mentality here. I don't give a damn where you put me. Put me in there, and I got to win anyway.
There you go. I'll give you that. And that sounds just like you.
That's a coach right there, baby.
Yeah, that's
Play-
coach. That's
I'll
coach.
play any day, anytime, anywhere. Just put me on the
Bring 'em
field,
on.
give me some pads and a helmet, and let's go hit each other, baby. Let's go.
Let's go.
Little ones bunch up, big ones line up.
Yep.
That's right. I love that one.
Yep.
Little ones bunch up, big ones line up. All right. Let's talk a little bit about just obviously the winner of the Elite 11, which was Julian Sayin. He is the Alabama commitment. I don't know that he was necessarily the best there. He just looked like he had total command from what you're hearing from Bruce Feldman, some of these other guys that were there. 3 quarters, but he's getting them off quick and stuff. What I saw from him, he looked good. He didn't miss anything. He looked like he was totally in command as well. One of the guys I really liked, though, and I wanted to bring this up to you, JJ, Trevor Jackson looked really, really good. This is an uncommitted kid. Apparently, Pitt is in his sights
Top
right
three.
now, but
Top three.
apparently Miami just jumped in. Talk to me about what you think about Trevor and what you saw from him, because everything that I heard, that he had the best velocity at the camp. You know, and he won that rail shot challenge, and then he had the best velocity. So it was big time. That's a big time move. You know, he was impressive.
Yes, he was. And let me tell you this, me personally, I knew Pitt's looking at two quarterbacks. They really put their sights on two. And that's obviously Jackson, number one, and obviously Hasselbeck, which is Tim Hasselbeck's son from the Seattle Seahawks.
I saw that.
Yeah.
So those are their two quarterbacks. I think in heart of hearts, they'd love to get Jackson. I think he's a hell of an athlete, very agile, incredible arm strength. And still, obviously, he showed good accuracy. I think he can still work on a little bit. And then
they said, and that's what you keep hearing, that he's a little inconsistent at times, right?
Yeah. It's either he's on or he's completely off. And I think Frank Signetti will be able to do that. He worked with Aaron Rodgers with the Green Bay Packers. He's got plenty of good stuff he could do with him. And I think he showed him that on the visit. But Jackson overall, when I looked at him, I think he's a hell of an athlete. When I saw Pitt was in the top three, it was good. Obviously, like we were talking about, Miami's gotten involved late. But let me tell you something. I got a lot of connections from, they call it a Pepka, Florida. Okay, we got a couple guys out of there, Ty Ray. These guys, offensive linemen, 6'7" guys, 320 pounds. They're absolute beasts. I mean, it's unreal. A human being can look that big. It's unreal. Wish I was that big. Never mind. No, I'm just kidding. I wouldn't fit in my car. No, but let me tell you something. When you look at the talent down there, one of the things that's very concerning to the schools, especially high schools in northern Florida, they really question the development of Miami. That's a fact. Let the Hasselbeck go to BC. Yeah. They look at the development and they're really questioning Miami at this point. Miami talks a lot. Miami's got that brand, but they really don't have the product to show it. So guys are worried about going there. If it was Florida State, I think it'd be a little bit different. Even Florida, I even give them a little bit of an edge. But I think that, one, they were very unhappy. And this stuff goes a long way too. Miami's late to the game. That kind of stuff hangs on these recruits. You're a Florida kid. How does Miami not recruit you?
Absolutely. And that's what we were talking about Colton Vasek earlier, about the legacy kid from the only reason he went and committed to Oklahoma was because he was pissed off that Texas wasn't in on him yet. And UT does that to a lot of those kids out of Austin for whatever reason. They didn't, hell, Baker was right next door to the school, winning a state championship, and they didn't even recruit him at all. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
And
right?
that kind of stuff really irks them, because when you're down there in Miami, which, now don't get me wrong, I love the Florida guys. Let me tell you something. Pitt's done a hell of a job. Kalijah Kancey recently, obviously a Florida guy, went first round to the Tampa Bay Bucks.
Pitt's a real program, man. Pitt's a real program.
Developing talent and understanding where it's at. And just watching these Florida guys. They've done a phenomenal job, and Pitt's done a good job putting them in the National Football League, obviously being drafted in the early rounds. But when you're a Florida kid, you don't get one of those offers from a Miami or a Florida State or a Florida.
Yeah, and when Miami's been trash.
Yeah, and you really look at it and you say, you know what? These players look at it and they say, you know what? You think you're too good? You think you're too good for me? You think you're better than me? That's fine. I'll go somewhere else in the ACC and I'll be able to throw.
And I think Mario's a good coach. I think that, but I've also heard that by the time he leaves somewhere, they realize that he hasn't developed kids to the extent that they want to see him do it.
Yeah.
There's that question out there about him. That question followed him from Virginia Tech to Oregon, and it's apparently followed him to Miami as well, because you continue to hear it.
Yeah, and don't get me. Yeah, like you said, he's a good coach. He did a good job. He won plenty of games up in Oregon. But like you said, the development question comes into play when you have to look at it, especially in the quarterbacks. Obviously, I love how he's a former offensive lineman, tough, gritty, works his tail off on the recruiting trail. But you got to produce results.
But a lot of that too is it's just that money that they got, right? They've got that freaking LifeLock dude that they just.
And look, and that's great. And it's what's really crazy to me. I was expecting a tight game last year when Pitt went down there for its last game, and then Pitt absolutely just destroyed them, embarrassed them on national television. I questioned just the overall development. I didn't like the Kevin Steele hire at the defensive coordinator position. I didn't like the Josh Gaddis hire at the offensive coordinator position. Josh Gaddis is now up at Maryland right now. That was a questionable hire to begin with. Obviously, they've gone in another direction. I just you have to start showing something. You've got to put yourself out there. Okay, you're the U, but the U is not the U like it was in 2001 in the early 90s. It's not what it was.
They haven't won in
Michael
20
Irvin's not
years,
there.
man. They haven't won anything in 20 years.
It's just not the same. Mark Richt brought it back a little bit into that term where they were ranked number 2 at one point. Obviously, it was fun watching them go to Heinz Field and lose the pit. That was pretty funny. But overall, you look at it, it was funny to watch it. But you look at it, Miami has the potential to be very, very good.
Sure.
But even with that roster there last year with Mario Cristobal, that team had plenty of talent. But what that tells me is these guys are more worried about going out and having fun on South Beach than they are being in the film room. And that kind of tells you about the culture. He's got to change the culture.
And he came in there and it's kind of the same thing that you saw with BV, that some of those guys were not the guys that are left, that were left over from Lincoln, that are still there. These are the kids that could be, but we're talking 85% turnover at this point, right?
Oh yeah,
85%. So there's not many of them, right? There's just not many of them left from the Lincoln era. And that's probably not a bad thing, right?
Yeah,
because
think,
because you do have to change that
doing,
culture. And when you come in and you start doing things different than the last guy was doing it, they're gonna. I mean, they didn't get recruited by you. They're not gonna listen to you scream at them. They're just not. And I don't know. I think that if you go in and you've got some talent there, because I think if it wasn't for Mario being willing to go, they weren't gonna fire that dude. They weren't.
Manny Diaz, yeah.
Manny wasn't going anywhere otherwise.
And then personally, I think that honestly, Manny wasn't really doing that bad of a job.
No.
I just think that when you look at the coaches in general, first off, I was unhappy with the way they handled that to begin with. They were dragging that guy along, basically saying, look, you're our coach, but we're also looking for a coach. How unethical is that? On top of that, how can that guy recruit? How can you go into a home when there's on ESPN on College Game Day, they're saying, "Hey, Miami's looking for a new coach. We're possibly talking to Mario Cristobal." When you're Manny Diaz and you go into a home, that's my first question as a student athlete. Hey, are you going to be my coach? Why should I even let you in my house? So I'm going to let you in my house to recruit, but how the hell do I know you're going to be there tomorrow? So Miami did it all wrong, and I think that one, they did a good job by hiring Clemson's AD, which has been a major turnaround in terms of culture and what they're doing.
Sure.
But when you look at it from a perspective of what this team is trying to build, give Mario Cristobal time. But I was a little disappointed with the talent he has in that team to not even make it to a bowl game. 5-7 is not good enough.
Listen, he had the full commitment from. Or this is hilarious, by the way. Perfect Cracker. What is this? Craig James or
who would you leave?
Neither one of them. Neither one of their asses. They
it.
got. Hey man, I'd put a gun in their face. Get out. Get out.
Les Miles. Hey, you guys want to play a game?
That was great. That was awesome, man. Wow. I love it. Good job, guys. Hey, thank you for that question. That's awesome. Guys, make sure you're in here. We've had I don't know, we hadn't had a huge amount of people in here. Make sure you hit that like button. It helps out us a lot. It helps us out a lot. That's good stuff. The perfect Cracker. I love it. All right. So, listen, I think that what I was saying was Mario didn't have to leave Oregon. They knew they weren't trying to get him out of there, right?
Nope.
And they make a real investment in facilities and everything else too. So
that Phil Knight money, baby.
And so, yeah, absolutely. So, but that's why he said, we want you to do this and this and this and this. And I think that Mario did it the right way. If you're going to take it, right, then you're going to take that job. And he went to Miami, so it makes sense. So, but he wanted to make sure that they were going to make that same investment. But you wonder, are they going to invest the time in him? Because I don't know that they will. I mean, they've not shown the ability to do that yet, right?
Yeah. Overall, when you look at these teams, I've been a big proponent, and I don't care what program you're at.
You need you need at least 4 years.
4 years. Let you turn around the program, and I understand people say, "Well, a transfer portal." I don't want to hear that
things.
stuff.
There's certain coaches that you can tell in 2 or 3 because they're just that bad, but you can see those things. But by year 4, you got to go.
Year 5, yeah. And honestly, that makes
I
sense
don't know,
because
man.
even with
You're telling me that Sark shouldn't still be around. This is only year 3 for him, Coach.
Yeah, but he sucks. That's the difference.
True that. Horns down, everybody.
No,
Horns
no,
down.
no. But honestly, guys, I truly believe this because, and again, I know we're talking about a different level, but when I coached Texas high school football, when I coached Texas high school football, guys, I used to thrive, and even when I came to Hobbs, I thrived on taking programs that were horrible.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah, no doubt.
And talking about changing the culture,
Yeah.
and
they've benefited in Hobbs from him taking over that culture and changing it. And then now, I mean, they wouldn't be doing what they're doing now otherwise. But
but it's so important as we're talking about this. He's got to change that culture.
Sure.
Because that's so crucial to being successful. And again, doing it at Oklahoma, 85% of those guys gone. Because what happens is when you got that 85% number, all those kids that have come into the new culture, they force that other 15%, they force them to step up. And that's another thing. When you're creating culture, you raise the bar. A lot of people don't want to raise up to the level of that bar, and they just get the hell out.
That's right.
And which is what you need, and what unfortunately is what you want. Hell,
listen, when it comes to Coach, yeah, hey,
Coach Prime, same.
Say it.
Perfect example. If you don't want to be here, get the hell out of here. And probably the truth is, I don't want you here anyway.
No, listen, he's literally flipped the entire roster pretty much.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking maybe 10, 12 guys that are left over from last year's 1-11, and it was 1-11. So who gives a shit? Let them go, right?
Well, that's what I'm saying. When you're 1-11, who cares?
Yeah, you had to do that. So that's the whole thing. Yeah. Hey, there's old Swamesy. What's up, Swaim? How you doing? Sooner, Pitt, and Notre. Yeah. It's a joke. Yeah, that's true. Fair enough, Swaim. Yeah, listen, in the end, you do have to do that. And that's where I'm at with it. And when you start looking at Coach Venables, and this is where he's at with it. Look, one of the things that he wants these recruits to understand, we've been talking about this relationship recruiting. He doesn't want them to think it's easy to come play there. He's not going to sit there and blow sunshine up your ass and be that player's coach like Lincoln was and make you, and everybody's got to love him. He screams at them and they still love him. That's the thing. That in the end, the reason that he's done so well as a defensive coordinator, and I believe he's going to do well as a head coach, is because he does expect so much out of these guys. He doesn't fill them full of bullshit and tell them that it's not going to be hard. He tells them it's going to be hard. This is going to be the hardest place you could go, period.
And Jason, he's able to yell at those players. You know why? He built that relationship prior. So it's not a personal attack, because some players will take it personally, but he's built that relationship before they hit the football field, which means he can coach them hard on the field. I'm telling you.
It's like your own kids.
I'm telling you.
It's like your own kids, man. It's like your own kids. I mean, hell, as a parent, you rip their asses up one side and down the other, but
Coach,
they still know that you love them.
You're the best best player I saw you with at Hobbs, Deshaun Sanders. Love this kid, great, and y'all were as hard on that kid as anyone. Hard on him, but he needed it, right? And he loves you for it. He still tells you every time he talks to you, every time I've ever seen anything that he says to you on Facebook or anywhere else, love you, coach, love you, coach, love you, coach. And Coach built that relationship. Kicked his ass all the time.
But I loved him too.
Yep. Yeah. And I tell you what, and then growing up as an athlete, and I played baseball in college. Let me tell you something. The coaches that always busted my balls the most, which I knew they cared about me the most. Mm-hmm. If they didn't talk about me or they weren't coaching me hard, that means that guy doesn't care about you. So and that's why I really, 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 Oklahoma fans, I really hope you guys just keep Brent Venables for a long time.
Keep supporting him. Yeah.
Just keep doing
absolutely.
it.
My audience is great about it. My audience is really good about it. There's a couple here and there that
they are.
When they lose, it's hard. When they lose, it's hard. And look, there was times last year that I'm not saying that Coach V doesn't have work to do to get better. And like coaches told us before plenty of times, there's definitely a learning curve no matter how long you've been a coordinator, no doubt.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that in view of that, when you see, I mean, Gerald McCoy, we're talking about a guy that's going to be a Hall of Famer. You know, these guys all played for him, and they'll all tell you got to go play for this guy. Yeah, everybody who's ever played for Coach V, they'd still run through a wall for him. Still.
You know, Jason, as you say that, and Coach V, like you said, he gets in the middle of their asses. But I guarantee you, after practice, I promise you, he's walking through that locker room, patting them on the back, saying, "Hey, you know what? You picked it up today after we had that hard play, tough plays, or he's
which
saying,
you did the same with
even
Deshaun. I mean,
if they
Deshaun was a
didn't-
real
even-
talent, but you needed
Right.
to stay in his ass.
or even if they didn't pick it up, you still come by and you see them and you say, "Hey, I know you had a tough day today. Tomorrow's going to be a better day." But again, that I think that's the difference in the great coaches and those that just kind of get through it, because again, it's that relationship. But they know, like you just said, you played baseball, and those guys that busted your balls the most, but they came back to you and put their arm around you, or
They loved
there
on
was
you
a
the most
positive.
too. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Bill Parcells said it best. I'm going to coach you hard now because I'm going to love you more later. That's how that stuff works.
Amen, brother. Amen.
And they love it, and they love it to the end of time. And all of a sudden, and that's why I give Nick Saban a lot of credit in terms of, because he talked about how, I can't remember the player's name, but he talked about how he made a mistake in college and everyone was just killing him. Throw him off the team. 18-year-old kid, throw him off the team. He shouldn't be on there, made a mistake, all this stuff. Nick Saban said it best. I coached that kid hard now, and I was hard on his ass now, but I loved him later. And guess what? I didn't kick him off the team. He did a bunch of stuff behind the scenes, but the media was crushing him. But guess what? He went to the National Football League for 10 years. Now he's the CEO of a company, has 4 kids, 3 of them going to Ivy League. Who was right? Nick Saban was right. They're young men. They make mistakes. People make mistakes. It's the great coaches that understand that and be able
and you
to
don't
teach.
throw away kids either. That's one thing I can say. A lot of people like to give Urban as much crap, and there were some things that he definitely did wrong. But he was always, and one of my favorite shows, and he's a little wild out there, but what's the name of that guy that he used to coach with Urban? The receiver coach that got in trouble.
Zach Wilson.
Yeah. It's a great show, and his show's funny, man. They do a great job, right?
Mm-hmm.
But he's talking about, how many times that, what are you supposed to just throw the kid away? And Swainsey, jump in here real quick. If you're still here, jump in here real quick. I want to talk to you about something real quick. I just sent you a link to your Twitter. Jump in. Now, bottom line is this. You gotta coach them hard, but it's like I said, and first off, I don't want everybody to get the idea that Deshaun wasn't a good kid, because he was a great kid. But he needed that motivation, and he needed to know that you cared about him. And they stayed on his ass, man. And yeah.
Well, and he was one of the first D1 kids to come out of here in many years. And obviously he went to Texas Tech. But you know what, guys? And I'm so impressed with him today, because talking about the successes of those kinds of guys, he's got his own trucking company in Midland, Odessa. And I think he's got like 40 trucks.
Hey, have you seen this kid hitting golf balls too?
But he doesn't know this yet, guys. But he's going to be a sponsor of this program.
Oh, I love that. That's what I'm talking about. Hey, we got to let JJ get out of here. He's got to go get on a business call himself.
Unfortunately,
JJ, thank you so much for coming on the show again, man. We love having you on here. Your insight is impeccable as always. Tell everybody how to find you, and make sure, guys, you get over there and see this guy.
Well, thank you both. Obviously, Jason and Coach, you guys are the best. Coach, I want to get you on a live stream with Jason here coming up pretty soon. I want to get you on my show for sure. You do a hell of a job, and it's both of you are so respectable. I just got to get you on my show. Again, guys, follow me on YouTube at Talking College Football with JJ Kitchen, or you can follow me on Twitter at JJ_Kitchen40. You guys are the best. The show is incredible. The fans are incredible. Reading these comments, guys, continue to support these two. They know what they're talking about. They're incredible. They're good people. Talk about relationships. These guys are good people. They mean a lot to me, and just in terms of how they are as people. So whatever
See,
they
and
do.
he
they're
always
good
comes
people.
on here and does this too, gushes about me and stuff like that. How can we not have this dude come on our show all the time, bro?
Absolutely.
It's got to be
Oh,
this way, Coach. Love him.
eh,
And hey, Coach, yeah,
great guy, JJ.
yeah, we've had a great time, and you really got to get over there. If you didn't check out the show that we did last night, with it was a blast. We had a great time. We talked about a lot of stuff, broke down the favorites for the SEC and the Big 12 and the ACC, and some dark horses too. And then we talked about a little bit of realignment. But great show. I had a blast. 2 hours went by like it wasn't nothing. So kind of how we do here. So. Hey, JJ, thanks a lot for coming in, man. Make sure you guys get over there and become a subscriber for him. We got to get him to 1,000, man. It's time to get him to 1,000. It's time for everybody to see this guy's show.
Means a lot, guys. Thank you guys so much. Love you both.
All right, man. Love you too, man. We'll talk to you soon.
As always, hail to Pitt. I'll see you guys later,
buddy. All right. Yeah, man. Hey, this guy, hey, dude.
He's a good dude.
Coach, I like that guy, man. You know, I saw him on Kuz's channel the first time I ever saw him, and then I just saw him a few different times on his own. And, you know, I commented in one of his shows, and he was real nice about it, just like he is there. And I asked him to come on the show, and, man, we've had a blast. I think he's great at it. I think he's a really good creator, man. Doing a good job.
Agree.
Doing a really good job, man.
Hey, speaking of getting him to 1,000, where are we at?
We are almost to 1,900. We are just a little under 1,900. It'd be great if we could get to 2,500, but I'll take 2,000. And again, hey, thank you for bringing that up, Coach. We definitely need to do that. We are looking at possibly about 2 weeks. I'm hoping I'm going to be going 5 days a week. We will always do our 6:30 show on Tuesdays. That's not changing. Or it's 8:30 Eastern time, 6:30 where we're at. So we'll continue to do that. But I'm thinking, and guys, let me know in the comments here, and you know, let us know wherever you see us. When's the best time? I'm starting to think maybe early afternoon stuff like that wouldn't be a terrible thing. Maybe even a couple of morning times. You know, let me know though what's good for you guys. When are you going to see us the most? I want to make sure that, you know, we're taking care of you guys. We are going to be doing a few different shows here and there. We're going to try to kind of expand into doing the entire Big 12 and really start getting into some more SEC content as well as we get ready to go with Oklahoma into that. And then look, we love doing, man, I just love I love talking college football. And as much as I love our Sooners, I love college football, period. I just love talking about it, you know? And so this is what we're going to do. But we're always gonna have a segment that's always gonna be dedicated to OU. Always. We'd like to expand on that a little bit as well. But let me know what you guys think, where you want to see us. When's a good time for you guys? Because you guys are very important to us in our audience, right? Evenings for you, Kim. Okay, definitely. All right, good. And I mean, you guys are important to us. You guys are the folks that show up every time that live button comes on. Kim and Hank and Peanut Butter Hero, you've been around a lot lately, you know, but we have our Adela. I don't know where Adela is at, but you know, we got one more thing we're going to talk about, and then we're out. And Sean's even back. I love it. The old troll Sean. And Perfect Cracker. And hey man, I'm enjoying it. All these guys and some of these guys are fairly new, but you know, we got a real loyal audience, and I love that about them. One more thing we're going to talk about. I was hoping Swain would jump in here because I was going to bust his chops a little bit because we didn't get Okie Light Cody in here, and Swain is an Okie Light guy. So Swain, if you're in here, jump. It's in Twitter. Come on. All right, folks. We didn't really talk when we got to talking about the schedule for the SEC. Now we know, they should be playing 9 games. I'm with you. When you look at the OU schedule and the Texas schedule, there's a little bit of a difference there, I would think. And I think it'll switch year 2. But that's not the thing that we kind of overlooked is for the first time in 12 years, Texas and Texas A&M will renew their rivalry game, which I think is great for the sport. The good news that I saw about the rest of that schedule is those every year. I think that they're going to go to the 9 games because those every year rivalries are staying alive during that 2024 season. How does everybody feel about the fact that we're going to see Texas and Aggie play again? I mean, I think they could both go jump in the lake, but they're fun to watch that game, right? And its rivalries is so important
Rivalries,
to the
yeah.
sport, right? Now,
Yeah.
that being said, something that Jay brought this up on Sunday, and here's my thoughts on this. As an SEC program, you have to play a Power 5 non-conference opponent. OU doesn't have one on their non-conference schedule slated right now for 2024. What say you folks? Tell me what you think right now here. And Coach, I'm going to get this from you. I feel like Okie Light needs to be on that freaking schedule. And I don't give a shit what kind of excuse Mike Gundy comes up with. I don't want to hear it anymore. It's an excuse. He's pissed off because he's not going to the SEC.
Right.
And they are sick of losing. He's 3-16. 3-16.
Yeah.
Hey, there's Adela. I was just talking about you.
Yeah. All right, Adela.
Yeah. Hey, he's 3-16. There's a reason why he doesn't want to do it. Now you can blame it. He's using the SEC move as a reason to squirm out of the shit. What do you guys feel like? Should even the Oklahoma legislature get involved in this and say, play the damn game?
I tell you what needs to happen is the friggin' president needs to step in and say, look, guys, hey, this is a must-have game. It should be played. The two largest schools in the state of Oklahoma, by God, we've got to play. It's a traditional rivalry game. And again, rivalry games don't need to disappear. They need to continue. I don't care what conference you go to. If it's a rivalry game, by God, let's play it. And Okie Light needs to step up and go play.
Link is in your Swain. The link is in your Twitter. Jump in here real quick. We want to talk about this with you. Because look, what I'm saying is, I feel like this is a situation. I think it's ridiculous that Texas and A&M didn't play for the last 12 years. I think it's out of
absolutely
hand. I think it's ridiculous. And I understand that. Look, and I'm not a Mike Gundy guy. We already know that. And I'll be honest with everybody about it. I'll be honest with Swain about it. And Swain's honest with me about stuff. He's a great guy. Same with Cody. I saw what you said there, Hank. About you only playing a SEC team. Whatever, man. You know how Cody is. He just likes to poke. He just likes to poke at us. They're pokes. That's what they do. And we do the same shit to them. Come on. Come on, we do the same thing. And I'm doing it now. I don't want to see Bedlam go away. And not because it's an easy win and blah, blah, blah. We can sit here and say that, but it's generally a really good game. Now, do I think that Mike Gundy needs to step up and quit making excuses? I do believe that. But my feeling is that, hey, if you're not going to do that, somebody at least say something from the legislature. They don't have to make a law, but make a nudge. You know what I mean? Or somebody that is dumping money into the program say, hey, play the damn game. Right? I know Boone's gone. I get it. But come on, guys. There's no way that in fact, I want to know, what do you think Boone Pickens would think about this?
Roll over.
Damn, Swain, I wish you'd jump in here. He'd
roll over in his grave.
Don't you think? Because Cody, I'll tell you this. Cody will tell you he's one of the Oklahoma State fans that thinks it's bullshit. That he doesn't like it because he feels like you're backing down from, the bully or whatever. And I get it that they think use the bullies. They are. It is. It's the truth. It is what it is. And it is a win in the bag. You're right, Hank.
It dates all the way back to 1910, guys.
Yeah,
1910.
Yeah, man. I don't see how that you can just throw that away and make it about SEC and money and blah, 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 blah. Right? I agree, Steve, that's exactly right. If you want to play in every sport, because they are going to want to play in every sport, they don't want to stop any of the other ones, right? They're going to continue bedlam in baseball and basketball and everything else. Come on. This game does not need to go away. In fact, think about the money that it generates. Oh, come on, man.
Not only the money that it generates, but the money that it saves because of travel.
Greg, I wish you'd jump in here for just a second, man. Okay, well, you know what? I want to have you on the show. We're gonna have to talk about this. You got to come on the show again, anyways. I've been waiting to get you on. We'll talk about it later. But seriously, I look, man. You want to see it in the playoffs? Here's what I'm going to tell you about that. Here's what my feelings on that, and I'll just go ahead and throw them for you. I think that when you stop playing this game, that it's going to hurt the program. I think it's going to hurt the program. I don't think that even losing the game hurts the program with OU and the SEC because it's generally a close game. But I think that when you stop having to get up for this game, that you lose an edge there. Don't you, Coach? I mean,
oh, there's no doubt, guys. You know what? You go back, guys, and you look at rivalry games. I don't care who in the heck is playing. If it's a rivalry game, you throw everything out the window, and hell, it may be 14-13 at the end of the game, and that you might be ranked number 1 in the nation, playing number 100 in the nation, and it turns into a dogfight because there's something personal there about it, and especially in the state of Oklahoma. Come on, guys. You know what? We own the state, baby. We own the state. Who's going to win it? And we're going to own it for a year.
And look at how great those Oklahoma State fans felt when they beat Lincoln that last time. 2 years ago.
Absolutely.
I mean, that was a big deal for them. Big deal.
Absolutely.
Right? And it should be a big deal. And history is why it won't. Listen, but here's the thing, Greg. Okay, history is why it won't be played. But think about the history just in the recent. And I know that. And here's the thing. I give Gundy a lot of shit. I do. You know that. But I'll say this is that since he's been the head coach there's been a lot more of those close games than there has been those blowouts. There's been a lot more of those close ones. Now, did they end up on the wrong side of it most of the time? Yeah. And do I think he's gun shy about it? Yeah. But I think that when you get to that point, that's why I'm one of those guys that thinks maybe it's time that he moved along. There's a lot of hungry guys out there that would love to play that game every year. A guy, Trailer, like Trailer down there at freaking, I mean, there's hungry coaches out there. He's down there freaking killing it at UTSA, Fritz down at Tulane. Come on, man. There's some good coaches out there. So if you're scared to play it, then move along, man. And I get what you're talking about, but
and I get what he's saying, but I'll disagree with him. I'll disagree with him because history is why it should be played.
Yeah, that's exactly why. I agree, man. And definitely you're going to have to come on the show because we have to have this conversation. And you know that I'll be real with you, and you can be as real as you want with me. You know how I'm on this show. You can say whatever you want, and we'll be fine with that. But I definitely want to have this conversation with you. I definitely want to do it. So, guys, let me know what you think. I mean, to me, somebody needs to step up and make this damn game happen. It needs to. There's no excuses for it to me. I just don't see it.
Bottom line.
And just what Hank just said, if the Pokes, just if they win, now they just beat an SEC team, what kind of season are you about to have? You know what I mean? What kind of season are you about to have? You just got done beating your biggest rival, the team you hate the most, and they're in the SEC. It's all upside, man. You're not expected to win it, but if you do, Coach, remember what you said about Lovington that time with Hobbs? There was you couldn't win because they were two classes down, right?
Yeah, 2 classes down. Yeah.
So if you win, you're supposed to win. If you lose, then you suck, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So really, if anybody shouldn't probably want to play it, it should be Oklahoma. Oklahoma will play.
If you get beat by them, then
you're not supposed to. It's not okay. It's not okay. They won 11 games that year, and that sucks that they lost that game. Screw Lincoln Riley.
It's right. No, that's correct.
Yeah.
But you just play. Rivalry games are made to be played.
And this is what I believe. And this goes back to our entire conversation that we've had about realignment and everything else. What we're losing here is forget the damn money part of it. Forget the money part of it. Because the money will be there. The money's going to be there, and these small. I mean, there's a huge gap between the SEC and Big Ten and the rest. But I'm talking about what drives college football is rivalries. Why is it that Notre Dame doesn't want to go away from being independent? Because they don't want to give up any of those games. Mm-hmm. Those are their rivals.
Yep.
They want to play them
bragging rights. Bragging rights. If there's anybody on here that doesn't, if you don't want to have bragging rights about your team, I'm not sure they're very good.
Look,
not your team.
OSU much more likely to play during the Cupcake Week. What does that mean, though? I mean, fine. Isn't that pretty much right around the time that they generally play anyway? It's week 10 this year. It's a little early, I think.
Just play.
But they're going to beat the brakes.
That's the bottom line.
This year.
That's the bottom line. Just play.
It needs to happen. I feel like
who cares when it happens.
And the whole thing that pisses me off about the not doing 9 games in the SEC is you're going to lose half of their freaking. If they don't change it after 2024, they're going to lose half of them. Half of those rivalries that have been around for 100 years. Yeah. If we can wrestle versus OSU, then we can play football. If we can play basketball against them, we can play football. Right? Are we going to not play softball too? Are we going to not play softball too because they beat the brakes off of you at that too? I'm sorry. I'm just kidding. All right.
No,
guys,
you're not.
I've been on here for a while. I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding either. And Greg will bust my chops just as much. And this dude, hey, listen, I am looking forward to having you back on the show anyway, because we had a great time the last time he was on. And I didn't feel like he had him long enough. Great storyteller. He forgot more stuff about this conference than I'm probably going to ever remember. So I love it. Can't wait to see it happen. Wanted the 366 as well. I think it's got to happen, man. I think it's got to happen. Because I want to see, I'd like the idea of the Florida rivalry, building a rivalry there. I mean, it's a transplant rivalry, but that's okay. I'll take it. Sure. Aggie doesn't want to play them. Aggie doesn't want to play Texas every year, but they certainly don't want to play OU and Texas every year. They don't. It's not going to happen. Missouri's going to be another one of those games. Who gives a shit about that? Ugh. Missouri. Misery. All right. Yeah. Listen, guys, thanks so much for coming in. We appreciate each and every one of you. Swain, thanks for stopping by too as well. We definitely need to get you on the show here coming up here in the next few days. I'm about to start going on 5 days a week, so I need you. I'm going to need you at least one of those days to come in, give us story time with Greg. We'd appreciate that. You can even talk about Okie Light all you want to. It's okay.
He needs to go back.
No, and actually, just to let everybody know, Greg is about to have his own show. He's got his radio show, but they're about to move full onto YouTube as well. We're together as part of this. It's called Your College Sports Connection, and that's myself, Cody. Some of these other guys that are in there, Nathan Bomber Brown from the Big 12 Mafia. And they're adding guys all the time. We're the Lone Star guys are probably going to be in it as well. We'd like to get JJ Kitchen. I think, I think there's no reason you don't want JJ. I mean, he's amazing. Kuz should be another one of those guys that's in that as well. If you could get him, but I don't know. In any event, make sure that you go check that out. That's a new, actually on Twitter. It's a group. They have Twitter groups now for whatever reason that it is, which is cool. So you can go check out a lot of creators. Just check it out. It's the @YSCC, right? YCSC @YCSC. I'm going to put it in the chat.
There you go.
On Twitter. That will take you there. It's a big fist, a black fist, so you'll like it. Check it out, guys. I mean, it's all a bunch of the guys that you guys like to watch anyway. Go check it out. We're trying to make sure that we're promoting each other as well. Get over and check out the Big 12 Mafia show as well. He's a lot of fun. Don't forget to go check out Okie Light, man. Don't forget to go check out Locked on Oklahoma State with our good friend Cody. I keep calling him Okie Light. He's really pissed about it, I think, but I don't, I love him. I've been calling him little brother too. You don't like that either. But man, all love between us, man. And he's got such a great, that guy right there. You want to talk about energy. If I had his energy, I'd love it. But great guy. He's learning it. He's learning so much about it. But I think me and Greg were talking about it. Is that you can't really teach that kind of energy to people. You could teach them how to do things and whatever. But the dude he's sharp. He's funny. He has a great time with it. He busts chops. I mean, we all do it, right? It is what it is. So, but it's a lot of fun, man. And I think that's, even though, I mean, Greg's going to bust my chops. He was busting my chops when he was on the show last time. Are they going to win anything when they get to the SEC? Have me thinking about it. You know what I mean? But hey, listen, isn't it a fair question? It's a fair question. Yes, they're going to win. It may take a minute, but they're going to win. In any event, guys, thanks so much for coming in. If you hadn't already hit that like button, please do. And if remember, you can always check out our official Hall of Fame college football podcast merch. It's right above the coach there. Your Lincoln Riley gear is there. If you've been blocked by Lincoln and you don't have your badge of honor, I got to ask you why. I just got to ask you why. All right. We also have the 4-star booty gear. I always got the horns down gear in there. We've got some other cool stuff in there, and we're open to suggestion on designs. There's even a can in there that Coach has been looking for. That's there as well. So get on there, check out the podcast merch store. You can also check out when it's almost time. We are at 74 days until the start of the college football season. Make sure that you are geared up and geared ready. Go to our Fanatics partner store, up to 65% off everything in the store just by using our link. Never overpay for licensed merchandise. Just go there. We get a very small commission off of that one, but you get a great deal. It's a win-win situation, and it'll help us out a lot too. The free way to do it, and this is the most important one, hit the like button and share it with your friends.
Yeah.
Share it with your friends. Like Jay says, sharing is caring. Let anybody you know that is a fan of college football, they should be watching our show. We have a lot of fun here. Guys, thanks so much for coming on, Coach.
Hey, Jace, let me I'm going to ask everybody, you guys, I feel like y'all are friends, and I don't even know some of you personally, but I'm going to ask a favor of everybody tonight. My hometown got hit by a tremendous tornado, Perryton, Texas, up in the Texas Panhandle. The tornado, actually there was two, but the biggest one ripped through a third of the main street, and it also there were four casualties, two of those young boys and two women, one that I knew very well, a friend of mine. Like I said, 250 homes that were completely demolished, and if y'all would just please say a prayer for all those people up in Perryton, Texas, and that we always need prayer. So please
say prayer for
say
me.
one for me.
I'll take a prayer.
Absolutely,
too.
we all need
take a prayer too, man. We all do, and I pray for everybody else as well. Yeah,
absolutely.
Thanks a lot, guys, and absolutely praying for Perryton. There's been some pretty bad storms there in Tulsa area as well. And so this is a tough time of the year for that part of the country. So
it is.
Keep those folks in your thoughts.
Trivia question for you, Jason. Trivia
What's that?
question. Who from Perryton, Texas has played for the OU Sooners? Played running back.
He played running back?
Yep.
It's not it's not like the man. It's not Billy, is it? Is it Billy Sims?
No.
Not Billy Sims? Well, then I don't know.
His name was Mike McKinley.
I remember Mike McKinley though. Gosh dang it,
Yeah.
I should have known that.
Yeah, Mike
Dang
McKinley. As a matter of fact, he got his start because I coached him when he was just a little far.
I remember Mike, man. Yeah, I do.
Yeah, great.
That's
great
awesome,
guy.
man.
Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, prayers up for them. Tough times.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Guys, thanks so much for coming in. We will see you on the next one.
Love you guys.
Hey, you guys all know the drill, right? Say it with me. Smash that red subscriber button. Like our videos. And don't forget to ring the notification bell so you don't miss one moment of the Hall of Fame College Football Podcast.